Welcome back to the Boys and Bolos podcast. We're down here in the barbershop studio. Jarrett, I think you're still in Colombia. It looks the same as the last time I talked to you.
Yes, still in the America of South. Not to be confused with the southern part of the United States.
My favorite part about you being in Colombia was during the blizzard that happened a few days ago here in Massachusetts. You said, send me blizzard pics. Okay, and so Diego and I sent him multiple blizzard pics of just us enjoying being stuck inside and seeing the snow. Diego's dogs were frolicking around. My kids were probably screaming. But then Jarrett decides to send us a lovely picture of him in a pool with a large hat on in the sun. And I was not happy with that. I didn't want to bring it up, but here we are.
It was a woman's hat. It looks great on me. And it was about 80 with like 6-degree humidity. Perfect weather. Pool was warm. Didn't shovel 1 inch of snow during this blizzard. I was half expecting you guys to send me pictures of like Dairy Queen blizzards as a joke, but apparently that didn't happen.
Didn't even cross my mind. All I could think of was you texted this to us on, I believe, Saturday. So it was like still blizzarding because it blizzarded all Saturday. And then I was just looking out the window thinking, oh my God, I have hours and hours of shoveling to do tomorrow morning. That was true. I was out there for a long time Sunday morning, shoveling and snow blowing and doing the old, snow movement thing. So thanks for that.
Movement thing.
Yeah, that's snow. You just move the snow around. You move it around. Move it from one spot to another.
I think it's going to be like 40 degrees by the end of the week up in Massachusetts. You guys are just going to be living in a lake, right? You had 2 feet of snow, and then a couple days later, it's going to be 40 degrees, and people will probably be outside walking around in shorts.
Yeah, there was a good amount of snow melt. It's been sunny the last couple days, so it's been already some melting, which has been good. And I think we'll be out there doing the outdoor activities again for a couple days. I think it's actually going to rain, and then snow on Friday, but not a lot. Anyway, back to what we do here on this podcast, which is the Premier League football, the great game, the good stuff.
I thought you were going to say the good game.
The good game.
Maybe that should be the name of the podcast, The Good Game. It's a mix of ethics, morals, and soccer.
We're here not to talk about any particular weeks or any real action. The action we're going to talk about this week is transfer market action, as the transfer market closed yesterday or the day before. Was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday.
It was yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday. Yeah. Yesterday was the last day. Yesterday was everyone's freaking out trying to get Aubameyang, but then no one really actually wants him, so that's what happened.
He just kind of showed up at Barcelona and started training with them. I saw a picture. He was training with them before he even signed. So bizarre.
Don't even understand how he does that. Because say he's in that training and he pulls a hamstring. And then what? He's like, it's like, I feel like it's like Friday. You're getting fired on your day off. I mean, he's just a real piece of work. Who preemptively goes to the place where they think they're going to sign and trains without any pen to paper, without any actual negotiations being locked down between the agents or the clubs involved? When I saw that photo today, I actually thought it was photoshopped, and then I was like, no, this is definitely not photoshopped, because ESPN FC shared it, and they're not going to, they have somebody who's going to verify this stuff. And I was pretty shocked. And I'm also really just generally shocked at everything. So I know we're going to talk about the Premier League today, but one of the bigger transfers that happened was the signing of, and we will get to the Premier League. I know, we'll get to the Premier League, was the signing of Mbappe. Because he's on $50 million doll hairs a year, which is
50 million euros.
Sorry, 50 million euros a year, not doll hairs, which is an unbelievable amount. And old Ronaldo, the original Ronaldo, fat Ronaldo, not ripped up abs. I got a wife named Georgina who has a thing on Netflix now, Ronaldo, said, I read the news that he will go to Real Madrid and earn $50 million a year. We were born in the wrong generation. The football industry is growing so much that it's only fair that the stars receive more and more money. I was like, okay, Ronaldo. If it's like that today, it's because there were players who inspired them like we did, which, okay, fair. But then when you read the breakdown, which Footy Emporium had put it up a tweet that I had shared, it said 50 million euros a year, 4.2 million euros a month, 9,061 and 500 a week, 137,000 a day, 5,700 euros an hour, 95 euros a minute, and 1.5 euros a second. That's just an ungodly amount of money. Now, my question for you is, do you think he's worth it?
Ooh. Taking into account inflation. And
taking into account inflation and the fact that everything now costs 30% more than it did before the pandemic.
I mean, is he going to win them a Champions League? Well, let's back it up. Is he going to even win them La Liga? Does he make that team? I mean, I'm answering a question with a question. I'm sorry. In my mind, no player really is worth that much, honestly, because that's a shitload of money. But they could probably justify it because it's a free. You got him on a free. That's probably how they can justify it.
Exactly. That to me is the thing. They're not paying 150 or 200 million in a transfer fee. They're going to just have to pay him. So like if you look back at Neymar was 250 million euros just to go to PSG, just to leave Barcelona to go to PSG. I think Mbappe's, if somebody were to buy him out, is probably around, let's say it's 250 million, or the same as just paying him for 5 years, never mind his salary. So I think it's absolutely worth it. He's only 22 or 23. He's one of the fastest players in the world. He's already won the World Cup. He's come very close to winning the Champions League. I think he may or may not have an attitude problem, but he's also won the World Cup at like 18 or 19. So like, I get it. If he's a little cocky, I think that's actually great. He's a forward. He should have a little confidence behind him up front. I actually think he's worth it. And I know people go, oh, that's really crazy. The bigger question I have is that I thought Real and Barcelona and Atletico Madrid were all in club crippling debt after the arms race they've had for the last 8 years where they've all been trying to beat each other. So I don't know where they come up with that money to pay him. That's the question I have. Because next year in La Liga, if you have Benzema, Mbappe, and why can't I think of the name of their current
Vinicius?
best? Thank you. If you have Vinny, you have Vinicius, Mbappe, and Benzema. They win the league. It's already done. I'd put $1,000. They win the league next year.
Sure.
Do they win the Champions League? I'm not really sure. But I also think this is more having to do less with how good Real Madrid will be and more having to do with how poor Atletico Madrid and Barcelona are, and probably will continue to be, because Barcelona is an absolute shit show. When you're going to Arsenal and you're trying to get a guy who hasn't really played the whole season, and when he has, he's been an absolute nightmare being a Aubameyang, you're just scraping the bottom of the wrong barrel. I just actually don't even understand what that move does for them or why they would even entertain it. So anyways, I saw that. And now the question is, do you think that Haaland goes for less or more money when it comes to his wages? Because those wages were very similar to the wages that Haaland originally had inquired about from Chelsea through Manuel Rayari, that whatever his agent's name is, I can never pronounce it. So do you think that, do you think Haaland will be on higher wages if he leaves Dortmund and only goes to essentially City, Chelsea? I guess Real Madrid could somehow get him. I don't know how they're going to pay for him. Or Barcelona. I also don't know how Barcelona is going to pay for him.
I don't think there's any question that his agent, which is probably Mendes, because he's like the only agent out there now.
Is that his name, Mendes? I thought it was something else, but I'm wrong.
I don't know. He could have a different agent, but either way, if that, is very public now that Mbappe is getting 50 million euros, then he's probably going to get something close to it. Maybe a little less. Maybe just a little less. But his ceiling may be higher because he's younger. And he's a goal-scoring forward. Mbappe, I guess, is also a goal-scoring forward, but I would say, like, Haaland's like a pure number 9, right? Right? And so he would do really well in the Premier League. I'm not sure if Mbappe would do really well in the Premier League. And
I don't think Mbappe would do as well in the Premier League as Haaland.
Yeah, I think Haaland has a bigger ceiling in the Premier League. I think he could be the top goal scorer in the Premier League very easily, maybe in his first or second season, honestly, because he's just a poacher. He's got a deadly finish. He knows where to be. Now, is there any club that in the Premier League right now that is going to put him on 45 to 50 million euros or pounds, whatever it is, a year? You know, he would be easily the highest paid player in the Premier League. I mean, that's like what, 800, 900K a week? No,
it's scary money.
It's like 750K a week, I think.
Pounds, though. Pounds.
I don't know what the conversion is right now, but Salah's asking for 500 or in 50, I think, K. And that's one of the big reasons why he hasn't signed yet with Liverpool, is because I think there's not like a problem. I don't think it's a problem, but I think that's a tough ask for any club, right? Because it means that you can't sign a few other players. It literally it does significantly hamper your team. There are only a few clubs that can afford it, and it's City and Chelsea in the Premier League. And I don't know if Liverpool they can't afford it if they want to re-sign Salah, and Chelsea is going to be stretched thin. And I mean, there's going to be some financial fair play like rumblings if they try to sign Haaland, because they've got guys on significant wages. I mean, they're lucky they have a bunch of homegrown players, and the only thing that would make Haaland even better if he was homegrown, but he's not. So that would make him worth even more in the Premier League, if he was a homegrown player. But I don't know. I don't know how it's going to shake out. I mean, Haaland is definitely going to go, I think, after this season. He's going to be a big summer transfer. Yeah, I mean, what do you think about the Liverpool, Chelsea, City signing situation? I mean, do you see any any way that Salah doesn't sign with Liverpool again?
I don't see there would. No, I don't, because I do think that Mo likes playing there. I don't think he would leave for either City or Chelsea, and I don't see him leaving the Prem just yet. I think he's got 2 seasons under him left in the Prem, and then maybe he'll go back to Italy or go to Spain or do something else. I knew that after the season that they won the Champions League, when they actually beat Tottenham, I know that Liverpool were Real Madrid were kind of interested in getting him. They had kind of like an Mbappe Salah dream that they would bring those 2 guys in, but I don't really know where that is anymore, because there's only a couple other teams that could actually kind of get him and get his attention money wise, and that's really probably just Real Madrid or Barcelona outside of England, maybe PSG, and maybe he would want to go to Bayern, because it's like, okay, you're probably going to win the Bundesliga and you're going to have a nicer schedule, and you're probably going to be one of 4 teams that can win the Champions League, which is kind of cool. So, but I don't know. And to circle back, it's Carmine Raiola, but he goes by Mino Raiola, and he is Haaland's agent, Ibrahimovic's agent, Pogba's agent, Mkhitaryan's agent, which is weird because that guy's hasn't played top football in a long time. Marco Verratti's agent, Donnarumma, Delight, and Balotelli. And that dude is just swimming in cash at all times, because I think he gets up to 10% for all of the fees and signings he gets, which is absolutely incredible. I don't see Salah leaving. I would love to see Haaland come to the Premier League. I just don't know, because here's the thing. I don't want Haaland to come because Chelsea's not going to get him, because we're a shit show. And we signed Lukaku, which was a horrible signing, and I'll say it forever. It's always a horrible signing. He can't play in the Premier League. Maybe he did well with Manchester United. That was a moment in time. He would only come and go to City. And right now, City's going to win the Premier League without a true 9. You could say Gabriel Jesus, whatever. If you put Haaland up there, that would just be... There wouldn't even be a point in playing next year, the Premier League. Honestly, they shouldn't... it's just not even... It'd be stupid, because Haaland scores goals for fun. And he's super young. He'd be one of the fastest forwards in the Premier League. He'd be one of the most dominant just back to goal in the Premier League. So that's kind of why I don't want him to come to the Premier League. I was actually hoping he'd come to Chelsea. But since we bought Lukaku, it just wasn't going to happen. But when we were looking at Lukaku last year, we were testing the waters with Mino Raiola, and he had just given numbers that were way too much for both Chelsea or City to even entertain. But since City kind of sat on the benches and sold Aguero, their decade-long number 9. Maybe once they win the Premier League this year, they'll have enough millions to say, "Hey, we'll go out and get him." But I don't know.
I don't know. I still think they have some kind of plan to try to get Kane, because they may be able to get him for significantly less than Haaland, and it's a, Kane's got a few more years left. You ride that that ship for a little while, and then you can get Haaland later. Yeah, I don't see him going there's nowhere else he can go, really, right? I mean, now that Mbappe signed at Real Madrid, where is he going to go? He's probably just going to stay at Dortmund. Honestly, I can totally just see him staying at Dortmund. He go to Bayern. I guess Bayern, but Bayern probably. I don't know what Lewandowski's contract looks like, but the guy is 31, so it would make sense for them to bring in another striker.
There is only one other team that we are forgetting that now has this amount of money if they're to stay in the Premier League, which is Newcastle. But I don't know by FIFA Fair Play if all of a sudden their second year, essentially, they can start throwing money around.
They do.
The way I understand.
They do, because they didn't spend any, because their owner was a piece of shit.
James said that they're still 130 mil up. But I just think that they actually just spent all that to stay up.
No, they're it's 400.
It's that much money?
It's a lot of money. They didn't spend it. Oh, you're right. It might be only 130. I'm thinking of Tottenham.
You might be thinking of Tottenham, because I was thinking that James came on and he said that they were. The number I thought he said was 130 million, and
but
he just also set on it.
You also don't. You can't. It's not like a straight 1-to-1. You can spread that money out over the length of the contract. So if you sign a guy for 43 million and it's a 4-year contract, it's a 10 million. So it only eats into 10 million of your of that year's money. So
right, of your nest. I just your nest egg. I think that that's going to be interesting to see if they stay, which I think they will. And we should start there, maybe talking about the moves that they did, because I think when you look at this transfer window, and Alex Yapko reached out and he's like, "Oh, Everton won the transfer window." I think Newcastle.
That is a statement.
He's an Everton fan. He's
I know, but even
I know you know.
I'm a Spurs fan. I don't think Spurs won the transfer window. They signed 2 players and guarded 4. No, Everton potentially, if things work out, could win the transfer. I mean, that's it's like trying to recapture the magic of Dele Alli and and hopefully Van de Beek works out. I like Donny Van de Beek. I like Dele Alli. Do I think that suddenly they're going to be amazing? I don't know. It's where they put the players. But yeah, let's get back to Newcastle. Let's talk about the signings they brought in. Let's start maybe at the Let's just start in the back defense. They brought in Trippier. What do you think about Trippier?
I think Trippier came here because he was sick and tired of Atletico. Atletico are just kind of floundering. I don't really think Atletico is a project people want to be around anymore. I don't necessarily know why. I think Diego Simeone is still a badass coach that I would want to play for. But I think he had his time there, and he probably just wants to come home. Honestly, he just wants to come back to the Prem. And I think he also is like, we're in a World Cup year. I need to be in the Prem, period. Because I need to be showing that I am as good as Kyle Walker, or I am as good as James or Chilwell, or I'm going to take advantage of the fact that Chilwell's knees busted and Reece James had injury problems. So maybe I can be the other option, and Luke Shaw has dropped off. Maybe I can be the other option outside and be Kyle Walker and myself with a 3-back. I probably can do that. That's something I can do. So that's like my thinking. I think it's a strategic thing. Maybe he'll also make similar amounts of money. I'm not exactly sure. They also signed Byrne, who I believe came over from Brighton, which I think is a pretty good pickup. And I think it actually hurts Brighton more than it helps Newcastle, because I just think he's a fairly solid player. And then they also started Target, and Target came over from Aston Villa. Is that right?
Correct.
So
I thought he was a midfielder, though.
I have it here in the Newcastle 11, the thing I'm looking at, and it looks like he's in the back left. I don't know. Maybe he plays. I thought he was a midfielder. I thought he was a holding midfielder, but it looks like here he's in the outside left back. But then they, in the midfield, I think they signed, and I cannot pronounce his name because it's a Portuguese name.
Guimarães.
Yeah, Guimarães. So they signed him. That is probably their biggest signing, not just money-wise, just more like energy, because they're bringing in from a outside league. So it's just kind of like more of a gamble. I think the other 3 that we've mentioned have played in the Premier League and are a little bit more, they've cut their teeth at the Premier League. And then they brought in Wood. And Wood to me is a very interesting buy. I don't. Do you like? What do you when you see that? What are they going for? Is this just they just don't have that big body in the box for Maximin to knock it into, or
I was
what?
just about to say that. I think they're looking for a body in the middle. I mean, he's like 6'3" or something, right? Or 6'6" or something. He's crazy. He's tall. I think they're just looking for somebody who can, yeah, I mean, just get service into him, and then maybe he can get 5 or 6 goals. I don't think they're trying to. I don't think they're trying to do too much. I think they're trying to just get out of the relegation zone. Win some games, compete for some against and scrape some points, and then go hard in the summer transfer window. Like go hard. Like I think Trippier is past his prime. To be perfectly honest, I don't think he's fast enough to play in it as well as he did before in the Prem when he was with Spurs. And I just think that he may make the English team. I mean, that's kind of like I think there are a lot of better options than Trippier, but I don't know. Southgate likes him, so. But I think what I'm trying to say is they're gonna bring in another right back, or another wing back. I think they're gonna probably go after Lamptey. Probably, I would assume everybody's gonna go after Lamptey this summer. I think Spurs are too. I think there's like Carrasco. They could go after Carrasco from Atletico Madrid. There's some real ballers going to be available this summer, and I think that the Basuma they may even go after Basuma. But Brighton want crazy money for him. But I think this team, they have Guimaraes. They're gonna bring in another midfielder. They're gonna keep Maximin. They're gonna bring in a striker. These guys are all guys to get them out of the relegation zone and established as a mid-table Premier League team. Not mid-table, but like lower, like out of the far enough away from relegation where they're comfortable, but they're kind of like middling in like 12th to 14th. That's what I think this lineup is. I don't think Chris Wood's like a long-term solution. He's older. I think Trippier's a long-term solution. He's older. Even who's that guy? Even Byrne, he's 29. I think Target is a solid player. I think he slots into their 11, but he's not. No, he's only starting 11 in like the lower half of the league. He's not even like that big of an asset to Aston Villa because they wouldn't have let him go if they thought, So that's my opinion of what Newcastle did. I think the players they added will have a huge impact on the quality of this team, but they still have to go out and play the games and beat the teams that are supposedly, better than them now. I mean, they're in relegation, so they still have to play the games, and I think they have, Dean Smith, and I think he's a good coach. I think they can, they can do it.
One of the things that didn't happen for Newcastle, which I think we're pretty bummed about, is Jesse Lingard was rumored to go to West Ham, and that kind of died out. And then he was rumored to go to Newcastle. And he apparently pleaded with Manchester United, with Rangnick coach, and also the board to let him go. But they just won't let him go, which seems to me like if you can't have it, if we can't have it, no one can have it, because he's not going to play. Nope. He's just not part of their thing moving forward. They've got Cavani, they've got Ronaldo, they've got Rashford. Now we can actually say there's two things that have happened, because Martial's gone to Sevilla and Greenwood is now being arrested on rape allegations. So United, maybe that's why this is something that's coming to me in real time. Maybe they don't let Jesse Lingard go because of the Greenwood allegations.
Yep.
So Greenwood is actually screwing up Lingardinho here.
Mm-hmm.
So does that mean he does play?
Free Lingard. That's what I wrote to the group chat. But because they let Donny go, I mean, I don't think that they have ill intentions or bad will towards Lingard. I think they need cover. I think they just need cover at the positions, and I don't think they feel confident that Rashford, Ronaldo, and Cavani are going to be the guys. And I don't even think Lingard's that type of player. He's not though. He's like a 10, right? So they don't.
He's just like a winger. He's not a 10. I don't see him. I don't see him as a 10. He's like an 11.
I think he played as a 10 at when he was at West Ham. I mean, look, I think what he does is that he adds another attacking option when you don't have Green. Well, I think Green was out of favor anyway. I don't think Greenwood was like that. He wasn't like solidly in the lineup at United. So, but losing Martial or putting him out on loan, and then you lose Greenwood. So then you don't have any. You need another guy. I guess maybe that. Yeah, I guess that's it, right?
I don't know. I guess that's it. I mean, I think because if Greenwood doesn't have rape allegations, I think Lingard goes, because I don't think Lingard was a part of their situation going forward. But that just came to me as we're doing the pod in real time. So United lose they lose Martial, Sevilla. Greenwood is gone with rape allegations. I don't know who else. Did they bring anyone else in? They let Van de Beek go to Everton, which I think is a great thing, because I think Van de Beek's actually going to get some serious time at Everton. And I think I'm excited. Well, let's just say this. I'm excited for the Everton-Manchester United game and the second half of the season. I think it hopefully still should happen. I have to look at the schedule. But that game will be amazing, because Donny Van de Beek has never had more incentive in his life to ball out and just honestly show McFred up and shut down and just make a he's got to be like, oh, I'm so excited to play against United. You kidding me? I have to play against McFred, and then in the back you have Lindelof or Maguire. He's going to pick him apart if he's as good as people say he is. I just don't even know if Van de Beek's good, because he hasn't even played a combined 90 minutes in a year and a half on United or whatever it's been.
I know. It's criminal what they've done to Donny. They haven't given him any run of games. They'll like play him in a League Cup game where he has to play next to some scrubs. I mean, granted, he's not playing. He's going to be playing next to like Gomes and Alan, I think, and Dele, if Dele gets a run of games.
You got Decore in there, Damari Gray's in there.
Yeah, Decore.
I actually think Everton has a much better team than where they are in the table, and I've said this multiple times, and that's because when you look at the table, they just still have a lot of games in hand. I don't really think they have 3 or 4. They're currently, they have 4 games in hand. And they're not against, some teams, let's just say if they've played 20 games, and some teams are on week 24. So I think if they get these new players in, Duncan Ferguson can kind of find a lineup.
It's not Duncan Ferguson. It's not Duncan Ferguson. Remember, know who it is? It's Lampard.
Oh my God. I fucking forgot. I'm dead on the inside. Never mind. I take everything back. No, Lampard will be fine. He's going to play probably 4-4-2 with a diamond in the midfield, because that's what he excelled at, and that's kind of what he was doing at Chelsea before he was asked to leave and Tuchel came in. So maybe that works, though. I don't know. But anyways, Lampard.
We got Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin up top.
If they're both healthy, I think it's pretty nice. You got Donny sitting in behind. You got Allen holding. You got a couple guys on the outside. Let's just say this. Everton are currently sitting in 16th. I think Everton will finish 12th or higher. That's what I'll say.
Is there any scenario where Dele Alli has a revitalization under Frank Lampard?
I think that is unlikely, because I think Dele peaked out about 2 or 3 years ago. And I will say this, I'm looking at the squad, and you roll through all the players. Dele right now is currently the only player. Donny Van de Beek has a number. Dele is the only player that doesn't have a number. So I really don't. I mean, that doesn't really mean anything, right? I mean, they assign numbers or whatever. They'll figure out his number. I don't think so. I think Dele's time has gone by. But I could have said the same about Jesse Lingard 1 year ago, and people would have laughed at me. And then he played amazingly. So,
but he's kind of now in the same situation as he was before he got that running West Ham games. So he's kind of back to square one. Lingard.
Jesse Lingard?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. But what I'm saying is Dele Alli, me saying, Dele Alli's not going to be able to do it. But now he's under a completely different manager who's new to this club, he's under a completely different manager. He's under a completely different club. He's gotten away from Conte. He's gotten away from Spurs, a team I think that held onto him for about 3 or 4 transfer windows too long. So I don't know. Maybe Dele Alli balls. Is he on loan or is he sold?
Sold. It was sort of like a free transfer with a bunch of add-ons. I've never seen this type of contract before, but it's like if he plays 20 games, Spurs get 10 million. If he plays a combined like 60 games over the next 3 seasons or something, they get an additional 20. I don't know the exact terms of the contract, but I've never seen anything like that. That's crazy. I mean, basically, if Dele turns out to be a good player and that he gets a whole shitload of games, then Spurs reap the rewards, basically. So
I kind of like that.
It's kind of a cool contract.
Yeah, he's kind of like a consultant. He's not really getting paid by the hour. He's a real entrepreneur. He's out there just trying to make Spurs money while he wears the Everton jersey. It's a really nice thing of him.
He's going to make he's on $100K a week, which good for him. And I'm sure he's probably on a similar salary at Everton. So got to go on those dates with Pep's daughter. So
oh my God,
got to afford those dates.
I forgot we talked about that. So the next thing I want to talk about is Arsenal because they made some interesting signings. They signed Austin Trusty, who's a center back from the Colorado Rapids. I'm not sure if he's coming in now or he's coming in the summer. They also signed New England Revolution goalkeeper Matt Turner, shed a tear, who will be leaving this summer after the after in the English summer, he'll leave. So he'll go over probably June, July-ish. I'm not really sure what that has to do, but that's both good and bad for him, I think, on many levels. Because I don't know if he's, I was talking with John Schreimer, like if he's not going to go over and be number one, I want Arsenal to hold his contract and loan him out.
Yeah.
Because I'd rather have him playing for a championship team than to be sitting on the bench. Because right now, Ramsdale, he's one of the top shot stoppers probably in the world, top 5. I mean, he's had an unreal season. He's just in a really good moment. And then I'm looking at the transfer market, and it says Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. It says left Arsenal, and it says joined, and it says without a club. So is he still a part of Arsenal, or is he just actually now floating in the ether, kind of like a nation stateless person? Like, I don't understand what he's doing. Because if he's on Arsenal, he's just honestly going to be sitting on the bench. Like, he should go play for Al Ahly anywhere. He should go play for like a USL team and get some run because it is brutal. Like, what he was on $350 a week after they won the FA Cup and he scored that goal and everyone thought he was a baller when they beat Chelsea and I had to wear an Arsenal jersey. But now I just don't even know what happens to him. Like, if I'm Barcelona, I don't even want him, honestly, in the offseason.
I don't know. I don't know what his deal is. I think he's just finalizing the paperwork. I think it was probably easier for him to just go become a free agent so he could sign whenever at Barcelona than try to like mad dash to get the rest of the paperwork in for the end of the transfer window. That's probably what ended up happening. So they're like, yeah, you become a free agent, you train with us. We'll get you when we figure out how we aren't a dumpster fire in terms of paying our players, because now they're probably going to have to go ask some like fucking academy kid to take like $10K less a week, but they pay him in Pro Shop points or something. Because honestly, that's
Pro Shop family coupons. And
yeah, like
extra off at the Camp Nou, popcorn stand.
I think Adama Traore is on like $15K a week.
When
really?
you even say that out loud, Adama Traore, who has right now more take-ons than anyone in Europe and has like a double as the amount of take-ons as Vinicius, I think this is just what they saw. They realized that like Barcelona can pass the ball all around, but if they don't have a couple guys who can get by and break a player and unbalance a defense, then they're never gonna compete. So I think that's why they bought Adama. But if you're telling me Adama's on 15, and then you're in the same breath, you've also told me that Dele Alli is at Everton on 100, the world is upside down. The world is literally upside down because there's not that huge gap of difference between those players, in my opinion.
But this is the problem with Barcelona, and this is the problem in what I was talking about on Twitter with a lot of people, is that Adama didn't want to play in the Premier League anymore. He wanted to play at Barcelona. He wanted to play in Spain. He didn't want to play for Spurs. He didn't want to play for Arsenal. He didn't want to play for any of these clubs. He didn't want to play for Wolves. He was on the bench at Wolves. I mean, the fact that this is what he ended up doing. He leveraged a deal with Tottenham to get Barcelona's interest, and then Barcelona's like, "Oh, this is a player that can play in the Premier League. Spurs want him. We'll get him." And then he's like, "Great, I get to go play over there, and I'll take $15K a week, whatever. Couple seasons, but yeah, eventually I'll make a little more money. But I'll probably also get I'll be on the starting 11. So, I mean, that's what Traore did to get over there. And I think players just, for some reason, are drawn to, there's a history of Barcelona. I mean, they're a storied club. They have, Camp Nou and this and that. And it's a very, it's a club that people want to play for. And I get it. But to undervalue yourself only hurts, one, your career, two, just the market in general and football in general. And it's like it distorts the whole thing because Barcelona seems to be operating in this weird financial state where they shouldn't even be able to operate as a club. They're in so much debt. But they're signing these players. It just sends the wrong message. It's just it shouldn't be this isn't how it should be, right?
It would seem to someone like you or I, where it's explain to me like I'm 5, that they shouldn't have the liquidity and or the ability to sign anyone else. It's almost like FIFA should come down on them and give them a ban so they can't. They can't even entertain these things because I just don't even know what's going on. They wanted to sell Dembele and then get Adama Traore. They ended up getting Adama Traore, but they still have Dembele. And Joan Laporta, I know we're a Premier League club, but you got to talk about Barcelona because they are a huge part of world football here. He was like, yeah, we don't really want him anymore, so he needs to leave the club. He doesn't end up leaving the club. Dembele's still part of that club, and if I'm him, I don't even want to play for them anymore. It's just such shit. It's such a bad business. So I don't know what happens there. I think Wolves are probably better off having sold Adama because I just think he was kind of dead weight and something they felt like they had to play, but wasn't actually giving them a lot of, just a lot of something going forward. One of the bigger trades of this transfer was, maybe it was actually happened outside, but I'm just trying to think. So Ferran Torres left. He went to Barcelona from City. Did Chelsea? I don't think Chelsea had almost any movement other than Azpilicueta signed for Barcelona in the summer. So he will leave Chelsea
Another Barcelona player.
Ferran
Torres,
exactly.
Barcelona. I just don't understand. I don't get it. I don't understand how even Barcelona paid. I get it's over a bunch of years, the $60 million for Ferran Torres, but it's just mind-boggling to me that club can even have. It must be so disheartening for a lower Spanish league club who's operating in financial fair play. They maybe not as much in debt. They balance their books, this and that, and then they have Barcelona just throwing their weight around because they're a big club signing all these players. I mean, we know they're in crazy debt. They're in crazy debt. I think $1 billion in debt. And they're getting players left and right. I think they're just basically just using their clout to sign players. It's just vibes. It's just vibes.
Totally. They're totally using their clout to get loans from Spanish banks saying we're Barcelona, we'll pay you back. That's it. They're getting low interest loans and they're spending the money and it's out of control. I want to read you the list. I know we're a Premier League club, but this shit is fascinating what's happening with Barcelona. So they have Memphis Depay. Now, Ansu Fati gets hurt, and that's a problem because he comes back, he's wearing the 10, he gets hurt. I think the 10 jersey is going to be cursed to Barcelona for a long time after the way they did Lionel. So they have so many forwards right now. It is ungodly. Let me read you the list of, and they only play a 3 up top. So they have now Adama Traore is listed as a forward. They still have Dembele. They have Memphis Depay. Ansu Fati is out with an injury. Okay. They have Braithwaite. He's still there. Luke de Jong, they signed in the summer. They just signed Ferran Torres. They have Ilias, Astanis, and Azaluli. Those guys are lesser names, but they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They have 11 forwards named on their first team. And I know that their problem is scoring goals, but I'm speechless. I just feel like in world football, we've all seen Barcelona go from this beautiful team and in a decade go to an absolute dumpster fire.
It's shit
and
show.
A lot of it actually has to do with the finances. It has nothing to do with anything else. They've just made really, really poor decisions.
It's going to be Braithwaite, Torres, and probably Adama Traore, honestly, because he adds something that they need as a winger, right? Which is crazy to me, Luke de Jong. I don't know how they'll probably have a number 10 that'll slide in there. One of those guys will play. Who knows? let's not talk about the league anymore. Let's talk about maybe some other notable transfers that happened. I think in terms of maybe impact for maybe not top 4 in the Premier League, but maybe Champions League. Luis Diaz to Liverpool is a pretty big get, I think, for that team. I think they were going to move for him in the summer, but Spurs kind of forced their hand because Spurs went after him as well. I think that he adds, especially when the fixtures come in a little heavier for Champions League with the league. I think he will keep them competitive across all the competition. I mean, like they're going to get probably second or third, as they should, right? They're a strong squad. They're just going to score a ton of goals. And then Champions League, I mean, he's the guy who can score goals. Luis Diaz can score goals, and you put him up top with whatever the combination is. If it's Salah and Mane, or if it's Salah and Jota, I think that's going to be. We'll just have to see how how the chemistry works out between them. But I think he's a very solid player. It doesn't always translate from Porto over, but I mean they play in the Champions League and they've been a solid team in the Champions League. So yeah, I mean I think that's a really good signing for them.
He's a baller. He, in the last Copa America where Argentina won, Colombia played Argentina in the semifinals, and Colombia outplayed Argentina. Argentina just happened to score. I think he won the best young player, or he won something from that tournament. He is a beast. And after that tournament, I was really surprised that he didn't go to a bigger club. He's playing at Porto. He's been playing really well. I think Liverpool got a steal on him, and I think that's Liverpool's way of saying, yeah, this is our Bobby Firmino replacement, and now we're going to be super competitive because we're going to have 4 guys that are killers, and Bobby Firmino's still hanging around probably, even though I think Bobby Firmino will probably now leave in the summer. I don't know where he'll go. Maybe he'll go back to Germany. But you have Mane, Salah, Jota, and Diaz, and I think Diaz right now in this moment might be better than Mane. Just because Mane's really dropped out form. I wouldn't have said that to you 18 months ago.
Sure.
But Diaz is a beast. I just watched Colombia. We just lost to Argentina. He was kind of left out to his own devices. He didn't really have much support. Colombia's kind of a dumpster fire right now. If Colombia makes the World Cup, it's going to be a hope and a prayer. But Diaz is a steal. He's a guy who not a lot of people maybe know in world football. Obviously, South Americans do. Maybe Europeans kind of don't because the Portuguese league maybe doesn't get the love it deserves maybe as a feeder system, honestly, to the Premier League. Like the Portuguese and the French league are kind of that. But in, next season or even by the end of this season, he could tip the way things go. And I think he's absolutely – I just love to see that signing.
So it was crazy because Spurs tried to do that on the sly. They tried to go over to Portugal and meet with Diaz's agent and meet with Porto kind of without anybody else knowing. And the Portuguese media leaked it, I guess, is how the story goes. And Liverpool got wind of it. And I think they were eyeing him anyway, so they were going to try to swoop in. They were trying to get him in the summer transfer. But they sent over their guys and swept in and met with the agent and offered him. Basically, they offered Porto the same deal as Spurs, basically the same money. Everything basically was the same, and then Diaz obviously wanted to go to a Champions League team. So he picked Liverpool, and you wouldn't blame him, right? That's just the way that it happens. But Spurs were not very, very unhappy about it because they basically had agreed to terms with Porto, and then Liverpool just came in and matched it. And it was kind of snaky the way they operated, but they were, that's just the way it happens sometimes. So who's next? What do we got next? We got Digne went to Aston Villa from Everton, which was a very strange signing. I still don't understand.
That was early on in the transfer window. I think we've kind of talked about that. I still think it was a very interesting signing. I'm looking at this thing and I don't really see any other big wells. I see Cantwell went to the Championship from Norwich. Norwich basically said, we have to recoup money. We're going down probably. Let's sell, see if we can get some money and help out a Championship side that's kind of desperate and trying to do something. I don't really see anything else of like crazy note. And I'm sure somebody will text us after this and be like, oh, you forgot about so-and-so, the biggest move. It was a fairly quiet transfer window, but I think that that's what's to be expected after I don't know how many games COVID had no fans in the stands, but unless you're a huge global brand, like only a certain amount of the clubs in the Premier League, you're probably just not ripe with cash right now. And maybe the uncertainty of what's going to happen with COVID and other things being equal, maybe teams are just trying to have, like when the market's going to go down, it's good to have cash on hand to be able to take advantage. So
Yeah,
it wasn't a lot of splash.
I'm looking at some of the loans that went through, and you had Callum Chambers go to Aston Villa. You had Christian Eriksen return to Brentford on loan, a 6-month loan, which is really great to see. Christian Eriksen, I guess, fully recovered from his incident during the Euros where he basically died, and he signed a 6-month contract at Brentford. And originally that contract was a 6-month with an option to buy and extend another year contract. And I guess that was taken off the table. I don't think Christian wanted that. I don't think Christian wants to play at Brentford. I think he thinks that if he plays well, he'll get signed by another club. Probably he probably wants to go back and play in Serie A or La Liga. I think that suits him better as a kind of more of a creative player and a set piece taker and slower type of game. Honestly, he could go back to, Spurs. I could see him going back to Spurs, honestly, if it's just a 6-month contract and he plays well and he's fit and all that stuff. So that's a really great story. I think that's awesome. Philippe Coutinho, this happened before, but it was still one of a transfer window. He went to Aston Villa. Spurs picked up Kulusevski from Juve and Betancourt from Juve, which I think are two very solid pickups for Spurs midfield and attack. They walk into the starting 11 on that team, especially because now they've gotten rid of Ndombele, Lo Celso, Dele, like we mentioned, and Brian Heel on loan out to Valencia. I think getting rid of those players, as a Spurs fan, seeing those 4 players leave, they were basically a cancer to the club. Giovanni Lo Celso and Ndombele especially. I think Dele was well liked, and he was like kind of a cult figure in the club and well respected, even though he's dropped off in form. And Brian Heel is just young. But getting rid of Lo Celso, who's been injury prone, and then Ndombele, who loves Big Macs and not liking to run, I think those guys don't fit into Conte's system. And
is that an actual thing? He's known to like Big Macs? Like, that's a thing?
Yeah, he's like a McDonald's guy. He likes McDonald's. It's actually
one of those pro athletes that still eats McDonald's because why not?
Somebody put up a funny map. It was a Google map of like Leon, and it was like Ndombele's in trouble, and it was like this. It had this pinpoint in the stadium, and then all the McDonald's locations. There was like 12 McDonald's locations all around the stadium. They were like, Ndombele's not getting any better. But he basically went back to the club that he left to go to Spurs for. And the hilarious thing, they picked up his wages, which he's on $200K a week, which is insane to me. Not only that, they picked up his wages, full wages, so Spurs don't have to pay any of his wages. And there's an option to buy for 65 million euros. They bought him for 45. Imagine if they exercise that option. Like he balled, right? And then they're like, we can't get rid of this guy. He's a revelation. And
maybe
Spurs,
he will ball. Maybe he feels good in Ligue 1. He's just going to go kill it.
Yeah.
And that's good for everyone. Good for him, good for Leon, and good for Spurs.
Yeah, that would be hilarious. That'd be such a
rising tide does lift all boats in some circumstances.
For Spurs, though, that was like so important because Conte doesn't need these like guys who don't really want to play hard. Like they don't fit his system, those guys, right? Especially Lo Celso and Ndombele. Dele, I think Dele worked hard. I just think Dele's dropped off, and I think Heel's too young and too unpolished and needs to go play more games. So I'm not opposed to Heel. Like there was a lot of people mad that like Brian Heel didn't go to like a championship team, which I think would have been a way too far of a step down, or go to another Premier League team. But I don't think there's any interest in any Premier League teams because lower Premier League teams don't want wingers. They want good defensive midfielders, holding midfielders, and center backs. That's what they want. They don't want flashy players. They want players that are going to keep them out of the relegation zone. A winger's not
there where they want Chris Wood. They want a dude who's just going to bang the ball home. That's it.
Right.
Heel is so polished. I really love him, and I understand why he has to move on. But
he's not moving on. It's a 6. No. This is the thing.
It's a 6-month loan.
6-month loan, no option to buy. He's coming back to Spurs. He'll get another chance to show what they're trying to do. He can be a good player in a Conte system. He's just in too far down the pecking order now with Kulusevski.
That makes sense.
He's not a number 10, and he's kind of not a winger, but they got to play him as winger because they don't really have a number 10 in this system, right? In Conte's system. So the worst case scenario, he kills it Valencia. He helps them get top 3 or 4 and qualify for a European League spot. And he's worth a shitload of money, and then somebody buys him, right? They bought him for $20 million. So whatever.
I just thought he was. I thought he was sold. I didn't get that he was a 6-month loan with no option to buy. Then that's phenomenal because he's going to actually go get run because he's been rotting on the bench. I mean, this is a dude who played in the summer for Spain in the Euros, who ended up, in the semifinals. I think he's a great talent. I do think you're right. He just needs a little bit more time under time under tension. Essentially, you got to take the coal into a diamond at some point. I will say about your boy Lo Celso, when Di Maria was subbed off today in the Colombian-Argentine game, Di Maria gave him the captain's armband because Lionel Messi was in France losing to Lille in a knockout of the French Cup, which, okay, good job, Messi, really falling off for me. But Lo Celso was Argentine's captain tonight. That's all I'm saying. I'm just going to leave you with that thought.
It is like it is the funniest switch that he makes when he plays for I don't know, they play a different system than Conte and
It's like
Mourinho.
Pogba. It's like Pogba when he's playing with France. Normally he's just lights out. A ball here, ball there, dribble, step over, meg,
I don't think Lo Celso is like anything
attitude.
special, but he's solid at Argentina. Like he's not a liability. At Spurs, he's a liability. He was just never good. He was just a bad buy, and he was injured. I think the thing that got people pissed off was that he literally only scored 1 goal in like 2.5 seasons, and he was injured a lot, and then he would suddenly miraculously be okay for Argentina.
Healthy. Yeah, not the best of looks. I was gonna say maybe we should look at fantasy, but really nothing has happened, and I just don't want to even open it because I know Oz is probably still on top of the dog pile. So no fantasy. I will say that starting next week, because the world moves 1,000 miles per hour, we're back to Champs League, baby. We're all of a sudden next week. We're mid-February. We're rocking and rolling. The Prem is 65% done. Man City are 35% away, if not closer, winning their next title. They probably won't win in the Champions League, but Champions League does start next week, so that's really exciting. And I think the last thing that we should touch upon is the U.S. men's team, because I didn't see the game. You saw the game against Canada. But the one thing I will say, and I hope you put this in the outro, is it is so bad right now for the U.S. men's team that Taylor Twellman was on Stephen A. Smith's show. And normally Stephen A. Smith just focuses on essentially just basketball and maybe football, but really I think with a focus on basketball, unless I'm wrong. I don't really watch him, honestly. I just know he's a very popular U.S. English-speaking pundit. But he was grilling Twellman and being like, I don't know anything about this game, but shouldn't this guy go? That's how bad it is that Stephen A. Smith is now asking essentially for Berhalter to be replaced.
Berhalter is so out of his depth in this World Cup qualifying that you want to shake the people at the top of U.S. men's soccer. Yeah, I mean, just U.S. soccer, and be like, watch this game. Watch what they're doing as a team, if you call it a team. And if you watch the game, don't listen to Berhalter say about they dominated this and that, possession, stats, shots, bullshit. Watch the fucking game and look to see what a team with tactics and a manager who knows what they're doing with Canada versus a bunch of guys who play in Europe who try to take every player on one-on-one, and you will understand why Berhalter needs to go. He doesn't know how to manage European talent. I would have rather seen a bunch of MLS All-Stars go out there and execute an actual game plan than watch Serginho Dest, Christian Pulisic, and Zardes. Well, he's not European, but Zardes try to take on the Canadian defense that actually has structure. They know what they're doing. They're not trying to do too much. They know what they have to do. I would rather watch that because it was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. I was texting you. I was texting my friend, our friend Steve, who's a very big U.S. men's national team fan, who was like actually a supporter of Berhalter, I guess, in some ways. He might get mad at me for that, but you start Ciance motherfucking Zardes in a World Cup qualifier to the best team in CONCACAF. What the fuck are you doing? Like the guy is not like he can score 15, 20 goals in MLS. He's not going to be that guy for you in CONCACAF. He's not going to be that guy for you. He's not good. He's not good enough. He's not good enough. I'm sorry.
I didn't see any of the game. I only saw the final score. But when you lose to a Canadian team, an Alphonso Davies Canadian team, you're going to lose 1-0. That's it. Now, Canada has actually some actual ballers, and they probably have the strongest team in the CONCACAF. I know you're like, oh, it's a stupid statement at the top. I don't think they actually have the best team on paper. I still think on paper Mexico and the United States are better than they are. But they actually probably play the best, and they seem to be gelling, and they also just seem to be maximizing their most talent that they have. Like they're in some sense overachieving, in my opinion, if I do believe, as I do, that the U.S. and the Mexico actually on paper have better teams. But my hat is off to Canada. Like, good for you. And if the United States is going to have a shitty coach and that doesn't know how to manage the amazing talent that I think we currently have in this generation, then good for them for taking advantage. And U.S.'s last 4 games are interesting. So we play Honduras next, which is actually tomorrow. They are the bottom of the heap. We have to get 3 points from them. If we don't get 3 points from them, we're not going to make the World Cup, but it just looks silly. So we got to get 3 points from them. And then our last 3 games are kind of complicated because you play Mexico, Panama, and Costa Rica. That is literally who is behind us. Mexico's in 3rd, Panama's in 4th, and Costa Rica's in 5th. So those are going to be hard fought games. So you got to get the 3 against Honduras. And then in those last 3 games, just get 4 points. All those teams are going to have to play one another as well. And so the points just aren't there. And then you're going to be in the World Cup. I still think that we'll finish first, but that's just because I'm an extreme optimist. But looking at it, Canada's 4 points ahead. So Canada's really going to have to shit the bed that I don't think they're going to do. So I think Canada, U.S., and Mexico will finish in the top 3, and I do not know who finishes in the 4th. And that's fine. And then I think Berhalter gets the axe, and they're going to bring in somebody else because they're going to have so the last game's on March 30th. They'll have 9 months or 8 months to bring in a big-time coach. I do not know who this is. I'm hoping it's Roberto Martinez because I think he's out of a job with Belgium, and I know he didn't pick up the Everton job because they gave it to Lampard. Bring over Roberto Martinez, get him working on this team.
I would even take Jesse Marsch.
Oh, I'd take Jesse Marsch 100%.
He's way
you need
better.
somebody who's not just an MLS dude. And I think Berhalter will have he will have done his service. But then, no matter what, he has to be asked to leave in this interim. He has to be. Because this team should have finished number 1. You look at the players on this team should finish number 1. Freakish talent. I've never seen this much talent in my life on a U.S. team. Right. And we're just not bulldozing teams. We should beat that Canada team, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I mean, you're missing Jesse Sargent, which is it Jesse? Yeah. Josh Sargent, which I think he would have started that game. I think if he wasn't, he might have a knock or something. He wasn't on the roster, which is, I don't know. I don't know if he's injured. I don't know what his deal is, but and then you don't have what's his name? The other player, the Bundesliga kid. Dortmund.
Reyna.
You don't have Reyna either. And I think Reyna is actually a very solidifying member of that team, right? Of that midfield. It's really tough to watch Berhalter try to manage this team. I don't think he knows what he's doing. I just don't think it. And you know what? It reminds me of Southgate, right? It reminds me of him not knowing what his best lineup is, and just throwing things out there and seeing what works. And you can't do that in World Cup qualifying. That's not what these games are for. These games are not. You got a guy who doesn't know what he's doing. You got a guy who doesn't know how to manage European talent. The fact that Pulisic is trying to take on every guy one-on-one, he's trying to take 3 defenders on every time he touches the ball. His only contribution to these games is drawing free kicks 25 yards out.
Christian has to.
He's taking corner kicks. He's taking corner kicks.
That's how he got injured last time we played against Honduras. He just tried to dribble through everybody, and he got kicked. The second he left the game, the U.S. actually got better. And I'm a huge Christian Pulisic fan. I think he has the potential to change U.S. soccer, as I think he's already done. But he could even do more. He could take us to the World Cup, and he could really make his name on the world stage. The player that I want to say a couple things. The player that I think is absolutely, who's just kind of been, I don't even have words, is Musa. The kid's 19, and the way he controls the ball and dominates the midfield and has patience is just unbelievable. So if you have Musa, Tyler Adams, and Weston McKennie in your midfield, you should fucking dominate. I don't care who you're playing in the CONCACAF. Yeah. You should dominate. Totally and the last thing I'll say is I'm not even worried about losing 2-0 to Canada. I don't even really care. Canada's a great team. The problem I have is that we celebrated beating El Salvador with an 83rd minute goal or whatever, 1-0. El fucking Salvador.
It's bad.
There's probably like a state team you could put together from California or Texas or Florida of just players with U.S. citizenship that could probably beat that team. So that to me is our team not actually having a system. We really do play to who we play. We play to our opponent, and that is dog shit. Everyone was like, oh, I'm pissed about Canada. I'm like, no, we should be pissed about only beating. He should have gotten fired for only beating El Salvador 1-0 at home. Are you out of your fucking mind? Now you got to make the pot explicit. We've been dropping F-bombs. But for me, that is the bigger thing.
Yeah, I mean,
that to me
the only reason he's
shocker.
still around is because they've beaten Mexico 3 times. That's it.
That's it.
And that's the only thing
and we won the Nations League Cup. But
a weakened Mexican team that's not even that good.
No, it's not.
It's not even a good Mexican team.
There is a story out there, which is actually kind of cool. And if you're out and you're like, oh, you want to learn more about the El Salvadorian team, there was basically this dude who started Googling and getting on Facebook because he wanted El Salvador to be good. But El Salvador is a small country of a couple million people. So he went out and found all these people that could basically prove a Salvadorian citizenship and basically got them down to come train and got them to come into camp. And one of the guys who actually played with John Scheimer and I for Pine Manor College is a small D3. His father or mother is El Salvadorian, and he got actually invited down. So if you had any El Salvadorian blood and could play for the national team, they called in probably like hundreds of dudes. But it's all from this one dude who sat on Google and Facebook and just went down rabbit holes to try to figure out El Salvadorian's team. So my hat is off to El Salvador to only losing 1-0 to the States, because El Salvador, when they used to come to the States, 6-0, 7-0, 8-0, 80% possession. We make subs at halftime, and even those subs come on and win. So for me, that comes to the coaching, because these players are so much better than that El Salvadorian team. It's not even funny. It's the difference between like a D1 champion in the United States versus a D3 champion. They're both fairly solid, but one should beat the other 98% of the time, handedly.
It's so hard to watch. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to be a U.S. soccer fan and watch this team on paper that should just crush, and you know that you got a guy who's leading this team who doesn't know the first thing about how to get these players to play well together. And most European coaches would, right? But like nobody wants to I feel like there's a lot of coaches out there who just don't want to deal with U.S. soccer, like the organization of U.S. soccer.
And I don't blame them.
Right.
I don't blame them.
Right.
I don't blame them either. I mean, I don't know. Depending on how Roma does, I think they're doing okay. Maybe Mourinho's out of a job. I'm not saying I want Mourinho, but maybe for a World Cup, that would be the wildest wild card you could ever throw.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe the players would play for him. I'm open to anything. I just know Berhalter has to move on. But with that, I think we're done, because otherwise we will continue to go off on Berhalter. And I just need them to get the 3 points against Honduras tomorrow night, and then we move forward, and then we see what happens.
I do think you're right. I think they get through the World Cup qualifying. They qualify maybe in third, and I hate to say that, and I know you're being optimistic about first, but I don't see them getting first. I think it's second or third, and I think he has to go. And I honestly hope they get third, because I think that would be a gut check for this team, and I think that might force Berhalter to leave and they make drastic steps, because that will. I mean, they need to. They should have They should be easily qualifying in first, and now they're going to potentially be second or third. And I just don't see how Canada loses a bunch of games now. they're confident. They're good. They have a good goalkeeper. They have good defense. They have Davies. Davies will come back. They've got David. They've got solid MLS players that know how to play well together. I mean,
And they've got European players that know how to play.
yeah,
So.
that's it. That's
Well,
all we got.
That's it. Ciao.
Dan Wright should be more pressure on him. I'm looking at him with a raised eyebrow, and I barely know soccer. So I'm imagining everybody who knows soccer, such as yourself and others, are looking at him with a raised eyebrow. The fact that you would say dominant, I'm just looking at him right now. You got shut out 2-0 for crying out loud. I'm looking at him and I'm saying to myself, why is he the coach of this team? Am I being a bit overzealous? Am I being a bit unfair in questioning that right now when I look at a man that got shut out and wants to applaud his team for doing such a great job losing? No.
Thanks for listening to the Boys and Bolos podcast. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, Twitch at Boys and Bolos.
If you'd like to be a guest, please reach out. You can hit us on any of the social media accounts that Jeff just mentioned, or email us directly at boysandbolos@gmail.com.
Thanks for listening, and see you next time.